I'm the reporter who broke the news of the arrest of 3 Indian nationals, now 4 Indian nationals, in the killing of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey, BC. So I became aware of Indian government likely involvement in this murder before it became public knowledge in Canada, and I've been pursuing it ever since then. That's close to 9 months now, talking to investigators, talking to people in the community, talking to people in the Government of Canada who have provided me with a fair amount of insight as to why the Government of Canada is so convinced that the Government of India was involved in this killing. I'll take you through how this story has developed and how I followed it and how we decided to break it. Hardeep Singh Nijjar is an Indian-born Sikh who came to Canada about 30 years ago almost, and who became prominent in the Khalistani or Sikh separatist movement, came to head a prominent Gurdwara in Surrey, BC, and came to the negative attention of the Indian government, who called him a terrorist, and he was shot dead at his Gurdwara in quite an organized hit by a squad of people on June 18th last year. Nijjar was involved in a series of referendums organized by a group called Sikhs for Justice, and they were basically asking members of the Sikh diaspora around the world if they were in favor of a separate Sikh state called Khalistan, yes or no. Of course, they weren't binding in any way on the Indian government, but they did succeed in really annoying the Indian government, and we've seen either the killing or the attempts to kill several people involved in that referendum effort. The men arrested for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar are all Indian nationals who came to Canada in the last few years. These are people who came to Canada, we believe, on student visas in all or almost all cases. They are also believed by police all to be affiliated with a criminal group in India called the Lawrence Bishnoi Gang. It's basically an extortion ring. It has a network of hired guns and shooters. It extorts money from the liquor mafia in Punjab. It extorts money from mining operations, from entertainers. It's also involved in drug trafficking and murder for hire, and it's directed by a man called Lawrence Bishnoi from a maximum security prison in Gujarat, India. We knew that arrests were coming. For obvious reasons, we didn't want to interfere with or disrupt or impede a police investigation, so I held off on reporting until the arrest happened. In journalism, you sometimes hear the expression anonymous sources. Actually, I think that's misleading because we don't use anonymous sources, we use confidential sources. They're never anonymous to us, we always know who they are. I also have to take that name to my editor to get it approved as a source. We grant confidentiality to them only if they meet certain criteria. One might be that they're official people who cannot speak on the record because they're not authorized to do so. Another reason is because there's a threat to their life or livelihood, and it has to be a threat either of physical danger and violence or a threat of loss of livelihood. In this case, it tends to be the first of those two. After we broke this story, the Indian government reacted by denying any knowledge of this conspiracy, claiming that these were just gang members killing other gang members, and essentially saying this is not India's problem, and even going further than that and saying we had warned you not to let these kinds of people into your country, so having a bit of a told you so moment with Canada. Police have made it clear that they're not finished with this investigation. Canada has always believed that this operation was directed from the top of the Indian government, and so there's a chain of command to be followed up on, and one can only assume that that's where the investigation will be going, is up that chain of command.